The greatest woman I ever knew was my Aunt Claire Lyons Callahan. In her lifetime, she dedicated herself to God and to the service of those who were very poor, uneducated, or addicted to drugs and alcohol. For the first half of her life, she served as a Roman Catholic nun, and the second half as a career woman, counseling those in need, a wife, and my greatest champion. I'll take you through the life of this amazing woman who tirelessly worked to help others and also gave so much to her family. And my aunt grew up in a very poor family, and but even though they were very poor, her mother always stressed education. And so my aunt, when she graduated from high school at the top of her class, she went to a secretarial school, which was the norm back then. And then she entered the order of the nuns that she would be with for the next 14 years. When she entered into the order, they realized that she was very bright, and they asked her if she wanted to go to college to be a teacher, and she did. She did very well. She loved the challenge of working with kids and the fact that she could affect them in such a positive way every day. One of her first assignments was in Hell's Kitchen in New York City. Back in that day, the nuns wore the full habits, covering everything but their face, and the black and white habits. She said that every morning these kids would come in and she'd line them up and hold their hands and look them in the eye and ask them how they were, and then ask them if they had any breakfast. If they hadn't had any breakfast, she would always have something for them. She also helped them with their clothing in the wintertime when they were mostly dressed inappropriately. She loved these kids and would tell you today that that was her favorite teaching assignment. She even was their bodyguard. When they left at the end of the day, she would walk them out onto the street, and there would be gangs and drugs and violence. And she used to watch them walk down the street, and if any of those gang members or drug dealers approached her kids, she would scream and yell at them to leave them alone. And people were pretty afraid of her, so they did. She was moved from the Hell's Kitchen elementary school to a very exclusive private boarding school, Catholic boarding school in Washington, D.C., where her students were daughters of congressmen, judges, I think one vice president, really the most wealthy and well-known people in Washington, D.C. sent their kids here. She wasn't sure about it at the beginning, but then she figured that she really could give these kids something. It would be totally different than the Hell's Kitchen kids. But she slowly began to connect with these girls and women, and when she died recently, many sent letters saying that she had been a turning point for them, and they never forgot her. And so really wherever she went, she was effective and loved. She taught all over the world, and really focused in on drug and alcohol abuse, and also on the effects of the family in counseling and helping the families to deal with this. This is back in the 70s when people weren't really talking about that aspect of education. They moved to Topsfield from Maryland about 10 years ago when my aunt became ill, and this is the time that I really got to be close with her. When she would talk to you, you would feel like you were the only person in the room. She was amazing and loved me so fiercely and was really my greatest champion. And I'm happy to have had the chance to speak about her today and to know that her legacy lives on.